Alright, welcome back to some Remnant. I'm going to show you guys the loadout that I more or less ended my DLC run with. We're going to do some boss rush. I'm going to avoid taking any like buffs really, just to give you like a clear idea of like what it's doing. I know some of these initial things that we fight here in the first like couple layers, it's a triple threat. They tend to be a little bit weaker, like they're kind of undertuned and then they ramp up a little bit as we move through. But, you know, like I said, we'll avoid taking any of the, like, upgrades just to give us a good idea there. But as you can see, we are using a plasma cutter. I've been on a plasma cutter kit. It works really nicely with the whole Narude theme that we've got going on. In addition to that, we are using ourselves the new archetype, the Warden. So the combination of the Warden plus our plasma cutter and zero divide gunslinger combo stuff, like we get a lot of solid survivability, a lot of solid damage, right? Because the plasma cutter is going to ramp up nicely. The gunslinger helps with that damage as well as the fire rate. And zero divide is also, again, 15% more range damage and infinite ammo reserve. So we can just keep shooting without worrying about ammo. And then the, what's it called? The Warden, right? That is the name of it, right? Yeah, the Warden is going to give us a slightly increased damage thanks to the drone that we've chosen, the combat drone, because it's going to increase our fire rate. It's going to do damage as well. So like it does give us a little bit of damage, right? But depending on the situation that you're in, you may want to use a shield drone, you may want to use a healing drone. But the big thing to me is that the Warden gives us a lot of survivability. We have a passive shield generated after 10 seconds of not taking damage, so it's just a nice little buffer for when I ultimately mess up. Then you've got yourself basically a built-in Ring of Crisis, so we drop the low HP. What happens? We get a shield. And then in addition to that, whenever we use a relic, what do we get? We get ourselves a shield. And so overall, it just makes us very survivable. Plus things like the Generating Band, the Void Heart, we become just very, very durable. So let's see how we do against this guy. We also have into our handgun is a Fargazer, because ultimately I'm not too worried about what my handgun is. In addition, it's primarily just to like fill in any like gaps of like scenarios I can deal with. So if I feel like I'm having to deal with a lot of like enemies, I might take something that's better to deal with a big group of guys. If I just really want to lock down a single guy, maybe I'll take the Stasis Beam. Right now I'm just going for raw DPS, so I have on the Fargazer for Madness stacks. So I'm just going really heavy onto that single target DPS, but it just depends on what you're using. So really, you can use whatever handgun that you have available and what kind of mod that you feel like you're going to need. Burn them down, no problem, right? Let's skip the buff. Skip buff. Cool. Yeah, like overall, it's just solid. It's just kind of a variation of the plasma cutter setup I'd done before, because it's got like different survivability, slightly different emphasis on how it deals damage. It's just enjoyable, right? Now, in one of these sections, I will use the Void Heart to show you like the true power of Void Heart plus the Warden, right? Because Void Heart normally, I really like it, but it's slow, and some of the relics do that, and that's fine, right? But it's slow in a different way. Whereas like if you use the what do you call it? It's the Resonating Heart, the one that gives you HP regeneration, and then if you're at max HP, gives you a lot more health regeneration over 20 seconds. If you use that one, you know, it is still healing you right away. It's just kind of slow about it, right? This one, it's 4 seconds of nothing. You get a bunch of damage reduction, so we end up going from like 55% damage reduction up to 77% damage reduction, and that's a big difference. I was hoping I could strafe that, not quite fast enough. So it gives you a big increase in damage reduction, but you still have to wait 4 seconds before you're actually healing it all. And that can be life or death in Apocalypse, which is we're playing on Apocalypse, you know. Not necessarily that this is an Apocalypse build or anything, but just to show you, right? But those 4 seconds can mean the difference of life and death. So it's a little sketchy. But the cool thing is, with the Warden, we use our relic. It gives us a shield for like 30% of our HP. So now we have essentially 30% more HP than we had, and a 50% increase to our damage reduction. So a lot of the times when I like try it out, enemies can like barely get through my shield and tap into my HP before the heal like goes off. Like it's a crazy difference, like how much the like survivability that combo of Sings does, you know? And like, you know, we'll use it right here and we'll let this guy hit us. Maybe? Maybe not. We'll see. Oh, he hit us. Oh, well, it ended right then. So, at any rate, it also does the 100% heal, which is nice. Here we go. Use it now. Boom. Switch over. Fargazer. And then we go like this, and we just start unloading. If I was any good at hitting his face, we would be doing a lot more damage. But I'm not particularly amazing at it. Yeah, he's getting messed up. Roll it. Oh, he's gone. Yeah, it just makes us very survivable. So once he gets ready to come in, one of the things we can try and do is kind of preemptively use the Void Heart to deal with any damage we're about to take. There we go. Kind of like that, right? Watch for his attack. Whoop. Run. Now, you may notice our armor as well, or you may have looked at it. It's a new armor set from the DLC. It's the Fader armor. It's very heavy, a lot of defense, right? The thing with it, I have on like 5 points of strong back, and that puts us at a heavy roll weight. So depending on like one, what you have available, and two, what you like, you may want to go with a different armor that's going to have like a medium set or medium roll. I couldn't reload in time, but you know, you may want to do something like that. I'm liking this just for the solid, just lots of damage reduction. So you can figure that out from there. The drone actually finished the job for us there because we kept having to reload. I think we had the mod end, which caused an overheat, and then I promptly had to reload, and so it just didn't, you know, didn't work out super great for us. When we get to the end, I will actually give you, like, show you the full, like, loadout that we have going on right now so that you guys can see it, right? Also, the other part of what makes the Warden so defensible is by having the drone on us, because there's nobody else to protect, it is going to give us a stack of bulwark, which puts us right now with my like current setup of like fortifying the Fader armor, puts us at like 57% damage reduction. We went ahead and just popped a Bullet Storm early. Cool thing with Bullet Storm and the Plasma Cutter is, you know, Bullet Storm is going to auto reload your weapon when it gets kills. Well, with the Plasma Cutter, obviously, it overheats, but when you get those reloads with it, it actually drops the heat meter all the way to 0. So it works out really nicely in that regard. I really hope I don't fight Lydusa here, because she is just not fun to fight. She is she is my least favorite world boss, like, hands down. There's no question there. And I know I've seen plenty of people that talk about how she basically ends their big, like, boss runs because she's just so beefy with, like, a DPS phase and stuff. Where's the Aberration? We're actually going to send our drone away so we can charge up faster. Where's the Aberrant? Okay, the Aberrant is gone. I guess we won somehow. We're just going to run past these guys because whatever. Oh, it is Lydusa. Man, as soon as I saw the stone statue, guys, I was really worried about that. That's really... Okay, it's fine. I don't like the fight. I don't do it very much either, so I'm always, like, messing up the mechanics of it. But here we go. We'll just start going, I guess. Get it going. Thick skin. Elemental resist. That's cool. Luckily, we're not really doing any elemental stuff, right? Ow. Yeah, that's a bad thing with the drone. I find that it just kind of, like, gets in the way at times, and that's really upsetting. And I don't like it at all. There we go. Oh, the second attack, of course, that time. Owie. Owie. Oh, use your relic now. I've got points in Glutton to make this faster. Because, it's really nice to be able to get your relic out faster. And with something that doesn't heal right away, to make sure you have it getting out when you need it to be is pretty big. Okay, we're going to use you. And then go over to this side. Oh, roll away. I'm too early. There's those Ring of Crisis and the, Ring of Crisis and the perk from the Warden, giving us a huge shield active whenever we get low. Is it overkill? Maybe. But I have not been playing like the best here lately, so I went with just being super safe, because it's really satisfying to have a giant shield pop up when you're low at an HP. Let me get rid of you, pal. Oh, of course. Oh, I'm way too early in those rolls. Every time I get hit, I immediately panic roll, and I need to wait to catch the second one. Now here's some weak spots. Get ready for some slams. This is a bad thing with the plasma cutters. When you have to stop and dodge things, it messes up the DPS buildup, or the heat up, process, or whatever you want to call it. And so, in that regard, it can be a bit frustrating. But if you can actually sit there and ramp up, it can do a ton of damage. Here we go. Is she going to go into wall phase or what? Maybe? Yeah, there it is. Okay. Here we go. A drone in my face is really annoying. Let's activate you. Drop. We'll just keep it calm and cool. We've got good DPS, so like really, I'm not exactly worried about this. So it should be okay, right? I didn't actually mean to use that. I didn't realize it was going to put me up above. Okay. Boom. The cool thing was like our specific loadout right now, and like how our gun is and stuff. I actually don't feel like we need a specific mutator to be like the best. A lot of it kind of equals out into being sort of the same. So what I mean by that is I'm using Deadly Calm right now. Deadly Calm is kind of winning out the overall damage based on my casual dad testing. But when you've got your other ones like Searing Wounds, Fetid Wounds, Twisted Wounds, and the overloaded one, the new Shocking Wounds or whatever it's called, when you compare all those, they're all very similar. There's slight differences between them, right? But overall, they're very similar. So you can kind of do whatever mutator you feel like you want to use, or whichever one you have, because like ultimately, like the damage was kind of the same, Reload quickly, please. Reload speed on the plasma cutter, I will say, is something that is really nice. I have that built into my prism a bit right now, so that's, to me, that's really nice having that. Oops. Why is this taking so long? Like, what is going on here? This is why I don't like this. Like, I'm just doing this right now, and it's not like, it's not being difficult or anything. Oopsies, I messed it up. It's not being difficult, he says, as he gets hit in the face. Oh, reload. Okay. There we go. Can we end this? Like, what are we doing here? Thank you. Please go. Reload fast now. Anybody else? Oh. Okay, now we're gonna Gunslinger, Plasma, and Fargazer. No, Fargazer is not active, so we just got to DPS her down, hopefully before we get absolutely crushed by the walls, because, yeah. Oh, come on, I gotta reload. Are you serious? Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that's a setup. Shoot things with Plasma Cutter, use shields for defense. We haven't leaned completely into the shields as far as, like, some of the other rings and stuff we could do. Took me 14 minutes because I sat there for probably 3 minutes in the face wall section. Oh, I got a new ring. Ring of Bones. Cool. All right, so here it is. Here is the loadout, right? We've got, like I said, Warden as our primary archetype. I've got the drone combat one on, but it depends on the situation that you're on or in, depending on which one you want to use. Gunslinger is a secondary. You don't want it as your primary because Zero Divide gives us infinite ammo. So like really us getting infinite ammo on skill use with a Gunslinger, pretty useless. The other bad part is that the ammo reserves, we don't need that. So it is kind of a bummer there. It might be better to use Hunter, but I really liked the fire rate with it. I liked that a lot. I like being able to use my relic to automatically reload my weapons and give me increased range damage. So I liked that part of it, which is why I ended up choosing it, because I had been using Hunter a lot. But Gunslinger or Hunter will honestly be okay. Armor, as I said, it's the Fader armor, and with the 10 stacks into Fortify, or 10 points into Fortify, we're currently sitting at 58.4% damage reduction. That is with 1 stack of Borg thanks to the drone. If we get rid of the drone, that puts us at 55% damage reduction. I think if we win it and we switched it to like a full set of like the Technician, that'll probably put us at right about like 50-ish damage reduction. Yep, 50.4. So it's a 5% damage reduction difference. So depending on how you're feeling, you know, you might want to run this, and then you could actually, like, we have 4 points in Strongback right now, and that was to get us at a heavy load with the Fader armor. If you put like 1 more or maybe 2 more points into Strongback at like 5 or 6, then you could have medium roll while using the Technician armor. So it's, you know, something to consider. The rest of our rings and stuff, right? So Zero Divide is our amulet of choice, mentioned it a couple times. Infinite ammo, increased range damage, very nice. We're using the micro compressor. That reduces our heat generation and makes them decay the heat faster, which is just really nice for the plasma cutter. We don't want it to overheat, and the way it works, like the amount it reduces it by, it allows us to shoot an entire magazine without actually overheating. So if we sit there and we watch it like heat up, when we hit 0, it's right before it would actually overheat, which is perfect. That is something we'll talk about with like Bandit, right? My second ring, Stone of the Expanse, increases my range damage by 12%, but reduces all other damage types. I did that because that's really all I'm doing is range damage. Yes, the combat drone, when I have that on, yes, that is doing damage, but I mean, really a 5% decrease to its damage is not the end of the world. But depending on what you have and how you feel, swap it out for another damage ring, right? Like, use what you have available, make it your own, right? These last 2 are kind of my defense utility healing rings. We've got the Ring of Crisis. So like I said, I've been playing pretty sloppy. So I went Ring of Crisis to have 25% shield right here. Or sorry, not even 25. 28.7% shield right here. Plus another 28.8% shield here. So we're sitting at like a 50% health shield whenever we drop down to low health. So yeah, it's I like it a lot because it's just a really like, oh crap, I guess I messed up, but now I've got a big shield to keep me alive for a second, right? If you don't feel like you need it, put on something else. Maybe you want to use a constant variable ring. The constant variable ring is a ring that increases your range damage based on the weapon's overheat value. So if you're sitting there and you are just shooting the laser really long times, you can build up to 20% more damage with it, which was going to technically beat out the Burden of the Destroyer, but Burden of the Destroyer is just 15% right away. It doesn't take time to ramp up, so it's something to think about. I have Generating Band on. I love Generating Band whenever I do shield builds because it's just health regen. 3% of my maximum health per second, plus another 10% whenever I have a drone out, because the drone also increases our healing by 10%. So I like it a lot. If you don't want to use it, take 10 points of it out of your traits somewhere and put them into Regrowth if you have Regrowth active. And then you've got just some passive regen there, and then you can just rely on your relic, right? Gun, as mentioned, Plasma Cutter. Deadly Calm's the one I got in there, but like I said, a bunch of the other ones, like the Charged Wounds, your Searing Wounds, your Fetid Wounds, your Twisting Wounds, all of those are roughly the same damage. There's obviously some differences, but the biggest differences you're going to see with those mutators in particular depends on how you're specifically set up. So like Fetid Wounds does a lot more with like critical chance and stuff. So if you've got a lot of crit chance stuff set up, Fetid Wounds is probably going to be better than your Twisting Wounds, which is just 10% increased damage to bleeding wounds, or Searing Wounds, 10% more damage to burning wounds, right? And then Charge 1 is it's faster fire rate and reload speed, which is just nice. That's a kind of a nice utility one. But I will say, if you do actually build like the Plasma Cutter into like raw, like kind of into any amount of like critical hit and critical damage, the 1000 cuts is great because it stacks up to 50 and it shoots so fast. Like, we can stack up to 50 really quick, right? Obviously, shoot half the magazine, we get up to 50 stacks, right? But you can see, like, we're racking up that damage pretty fast. Which actually, I'm kind of curious here. Let's unload the full thing right here. See what our DPS damage is at. It gets up to probably 2,400 close. 16,000. Okay. Now we do the Deadly Calm. We just start shooting right away. Ramping up, ramping up. 24-ish, 1600, and maybe a little bit less, actually. It depends on how you do it, though, too, because if we sat there and we let the Deadly Calm build up for 3 seconds first, then maybe... Let's see here. Yeah, we're got 2500. Yeah, see, if we let Deadly Calm build up first, then we're going to do like 17,000 damage. But obviously, it also kind of depends on how many critical hits and stuff are you getting, you know? I will mention Bandit, right? So the problem with Bandit, I like Bandit. One, because it refills ammo into your magazine, and we're shooting so much, like, it's pretty nice. And then you can get really fast fire rate. Very fun, very solid. The problem is we don't get that perfect amount of, like, overheat to reload, like, when we empty our magazine. So because the ammo goes, like, back into our magazine, we're actually going to overheat before we reload. So if you notice here, like, we're very close to overheating. Now we overheating, and we still have a quarter of our magazine left. And so then we're going to be stuck, like, shooting another, 25 rounds, and then we're going to have to reload. So depending on how you feel, I mean, really, though, how often are you actually sitting there and unloading your entire magazine onto a guy? Not often, right? There's going to be, as you saw in some of the boss fights, right? There's a lot of shooting, dodge, and look how my heat just isn't going up anywhere. So in that regard, it's fine. It's fine. Don't want to drag really any further. Melee weapon doesn't matter. The handgun also really doesn't matter. Just depends on what your situation is and what you need it to do. More single target DPS, more AoE control, fields, enemies, whatever you need it to do. That's what you do with it, right? Trait wise, if you're playing on Apocalypse, get your standard like defense, like survivability stuff. I find that when using something like the plasma cutter, really leaning into that, I'm doing range damage stuff. Maxing out swiftness, maxing out the footwork is great so that you get some great just like aiming down sights, like movement speed back and forth, so that you can actually evade some of the ranged attack of enemies. Not all of them will be evadable, so you got to know like when you still have to like roll to avoid it. But I find that is really nice. Long shot is always sometimes kind of nice. Glutton is just a nice little pick, only a 5 or 6 points in there just to get us to like a 21% extra speed. It's really nice at that point. Mentioned it before, Void Heart is my choice right here, right now, but really, it doesn't matter. Use whatever relic you want to use. I just think that the Void Heart synergizes really nicely with the effect of the Warden getting a shield. But yeah, to each their own. Fragment-wise, health bonus, range damage, fire rate. If I was doing more focus onto critical hits or critical damage, I would probably swap out the range damage, fire rate, or maybe focus full damage and put more into those specific stats. But because I haven't leaned so hard into the critical hits and stuff, my casual dad testing was showing me that just flat range damage was better and fire rate. So again, use what you've got, make it your own. If you've tweaked some of the other rings and stuff, it might be better to switch some of these as well. Don't pay attention to what I've got in my prism. The only thing I will say is reload speed is really nice for the plasma cutter, especially when you have infinite ammo reserve. So I really enjoy having that. But overall, I'm not happy with what I've got going on in my prism right now. That's its own separate problem that I have to deal with. That's it. I'm going to stop rambling now. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a go. It's great. The Warden is a lot of fun. Great survivability, flat damage increase to fit with anything, and can give you some decent support or coverage if you want to shield allies or heal things up. Great flexibility. That's it. Take care.